Let's do it right now. Back again. Episode 48. But who's keeping track?
We are.
Oh, yeah. I guess we are kind of...
48. We have 2 more episodes before we hit 50.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we get rich. So I'm psyched about it.
I can't wait for that.
I reached out to Devin. I told him he has to come on. So we'll see if he does.
Hope so. It'll be pretty sweet.
Hey, no guests tonight, y'all. It's just us idiots.
Yep.
So you can play Stump the Chump with us.
A couple of morons.
We do enjoy doing these shows where just John and I riff on one another every month or two, so I hope you guys don't mind too badly.
I don't think they will.
Well, they'll just not watch. They will know. We'll see like the little ticker going down and down and down until it's just you and I
It's
talking.
just zero.
Which is how we all started to begin with.
Yeah, right.
We're just talking about nothing to one another.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
So congratulations on your left-handed victories out there, California States.
Thank you. Thank
Pretty
you.
good.
Yeah.
Watching those matches.
It's definitely a good tournament. Bill Collins' event is always, as always, perfect. You know, good tight reffing. It was just real great. The Fit Expo was pretty sweet too. Luckily, didn't have to squeeze too much weight out for 165.
Yeah.
Pretty comfortable. I was 168 the next day, so definitely a pretty comfortable cut. There was a lot of people that were saying, "You cut the 65s for this?" And I'm like, "Not really a cut, just not eating or drinking for a few hours." As spoiled as we get as arm wrestlers sometimes.
That pisses me off, though. I want you to have to like cut weight and be miserable like once. So if you make like 154s for Tahoe, I assume that you're going to be at least partially miserable. I want to make sure that we document that for people.
Hey,
so
I've cut for AAA Nationals in 2014. I cut from 178 to 165.
But I didn't see that, so that doesn't count.
No, it's true. You were there, but you didn't see the misery.
I was there, but I didn't see the misery.
Yeah, you just want me to not be happy.
Pretty much.
Oh, okay.
You're too happy. It'll bring some of that happiness down a little bit. You know?
You like me better when I'm competing, because then I'm not as happy.
When you're competing, you're like mad at everybody, and you're like, I have nothing to say to you. Shut up.
It is kind of
People
true.
ask you questions, you're like, Ugh.
It is a little true.
Just grunt at them.
It is kind of true.
John's walking around weight is the same as his competing weight. That's why he's annoying.
You're annoying.
Whatever he says, if he wants to pull 176, then he'll, I'm 174. I just had a huge breakfast, so I should be good. But if it's 165, it's the same thing. It's like he wakes up in the morning at 161, has a giant breakfast, and weighs in without any struggle. John has like a magic ability to weigh whatever he needs to weigh.
Well, I just remember when I came out there for New England, you picked me up from the airport. You're like, you want to get lunch or you want to kind of eat? I'm like, all right, we can get lunch. And you're like, oh, you must be really confident about your weight. And I'm like, yeah, I'm always under 76. And then the next morning, I remember texting you saying, we're getting breakfast, right? And you're like, you should be 210 the way you eat.
I know, you should be 210.
Yeah.
I gained weight just sitting next to you, so
that's
kind of annoying.
I think it all.
Although I recommend the food poisoning and pneumonia plan if you really want to lose weight.
That's a good diet. Get you all ripped.
It's awesome, man. I mean, it sucks for a little while, but I mean, I'm still walking around at 200 pounds, and I was 213 before that, so I learned my lesson.
What do your abs look like?
Like I said last week, I'm ready for a modeling career. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that I was ugly, I'd be all set.
Oh, well, that's a small detail.
Just a small detail.
Yeah.
Not even a big deal. But
well, if I'm gonna make 54s, you need to make 87s.
I would be dead at 87, man. I can't do that. I mean, 95s, I feel like I look like a skeleton. So get to like 90 or 87 or something like that, I just don't see it happening.
And seeing Josh was doing so well with his little sickness here, and now he's dying on the air.
It is what it is. I'm going to be coughing for the rest of my life, I think. It's like I'm
Oh,
a smoker.
jeez, that's brutal.
Well, I was talking to the
whole
doctor,
life?
like, well, it could take you up to 6 weeks to get rid of that cough completely. And I was like, that's great.
Like, thanks, Doc.
That's awesome.
Optimism. So what do you got coming up next for arm wrestling? Do you know?
The next big tournament I'm doing is going to be Tahoe for sure in April. And anything I do between now and then is just going to be for fun.
Mm.
I'm putting on a big 30-man invitational tournament for 160-pounders
Yeah.
only, which is going to be a blast. And also in April, at the end of April. And so, all Northeast area and Canadian pullers who legitimately weigh 160 pounds and, are relatively successful are going to be invited. And it's going to be limited to 30 people, but I hope to get a couple backups so that we can guarantee we have at least 30. And we're going to pay like 80% of the loot back to the arm wrestlers. So someone's going to walk away with some decent money. And, I really want to see all those guys pull, man. I think it's going to be amazing. It's such a huge class up here in the Northeast. So,
what is the entry for that?
I'm probably going to do like 25 because it would be nice to be able to give away some significant money.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, to the people who win. So that's what I'm thinking right now.
Yeah, that one it really intrigues me, the 160 thing, because I know I can make 160. Mm-hmm. It's just the same day weigh-ins is tough. And
it's the only way to do it that's fair, though. Otherwise you get people cutting 20, 30 pounds, weigh me in on Thursday night, and then by the time the tournament comes on, they weigh 192.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And it's like I want to make 160, but I just don't know if on the same day things going to work out. But I do agree. To make it a true lightweight class, it'd be nice to have the same day weigh-in. So I'm still rattling that around in my head. Are you going to have anything else at that event?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to do some super matches so that people who weigh other amounts can still participate. So hopefully I'll get a super match myself, and we'll get some for some other people who are interested in traveling and want to come visit or help out. So it should be fun. We're going to have fun.
Yeah.
I mean, the primary idea is that it's going to be easy to run. It's going to be a lot of fun for the 160-pounders, but it's going to be a cool event to watch and referee and all that stuff as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be like, even if I couldn't get in that class, I wouldn't be against coming out for a super match if there was something we could get set up.
Well, you are very fond of super matches.
Sure.
I would like to do a 198 one too. Donnie Miller's on here saying that the 198s are big where they are and 155s. I think it's fun. You just focus on one class, you invite everybody, give away some money, and you really get a pretty decent idea of where you stand tournament-wise.
Yeah.
Amongst the people that you are in similar weights to.
Yeah, I definitely think, like you said, that class is huge in the Northeast. Mm-hmm. And I think 30 people, people have like kind of made comments to me about that 30-man. They're like, can you really get 30 guys? Because that's a big class.
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, you probably can with that weight in that area. It's kind of insane how many people are around there that some of them who don't really come out all that often, but for something like that, they might. So
right.
Should be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I think it won't be hard getting 30. It'll be just hard making sure we give everybody who deserves to be there a chance.
Yep.
I don't think you couldn't do 30 and have us legitimately deep class with most of the other weights around here. Maybe 198s, but 160s definitely.
Mm. Yeah.
I mean, you got like people like Jeremy Meserve and Travis Jocelyn. You got like the Gabe Acardis and the Norm Devios. You got people like you and Chris Gabi. There's all different generations and different styles of pullers. And then, there's people like Chris Michaels and Sam Harris that are near enough that they could come, and LeBron and Sasha and all these. There's just so many very talented pullers that are under 160 pounds. It would just be fun to watch you guys all fight it out, man.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a great idea.
So if you want to come and wherever you live, Alan Fisher actually said, "Hey, when is that?" And I was like, "I don't think you're really going to come up here for this, Alan, because you're not going to win 20 grand like at WL, but we'd make room for him if he wanted to come. How can you say no to Alan Fisher?"
Yeah, it was good seeing him this weekend. He showed up to the California State. The 165s were packed, man. The whole tournament was good, but the talent there was really deep. It was good. You know, I was a little worried about, I think Bill was too, just about turnout. He wanted just people to show up. And, but those, the classes were pretty decent sized, and the talent was definitely there. Right handed, I didn't fare quite as well as I did left hand. Just felt weird. Like I was telling you before the show, it was like a basketball player who can't shoot a free throw that day. It just felt weird. I was just off right handed. Didn't feel good. Felt physically good. No pain, nothing like that, but just wrong. And, but like in those classes, like me, Ovi, I think Dragomov is his name. I don't know if you know who that is from Arizona.
I've heard of him, and everybody was talking about him like he was somebody significant. So
he's someone significant. As soon as I walked in with my teammate Matt Tucker, and I looked over, I saw Ovi, and I'm like, ooh, he looks like he's about 165. That guy could be trouble. And he's like, who's that? And I'm like, he's a bad man. That's a bad dude. So definitely was worried about him. It was me, Ovi, Allen, Vazgen. So, significant. And then there was a couple other guys who were dangerous. And then, there was a few more people in there that I really didn't know that well. But that's, pretty deep. Luke was there, but he wasn't 165, which was a little disappointing to me. I pulled 85s left as well. I took fourth. I never got to touch Luke, which was, again, a little disappointing, but it was good to see him back on the table. He looks good. He was big. He said he was about 180 pounds. So asked him if he was healthy. He said not quite yet, but he's getting there. Been a lot
he won his class, though, didn't he?
Yeah. He said he's been focusing a lot more on lifting lately than table, just to try to heal. But he looked good. I mean, I was glad to see him out competing,
Yeah.
Jeff Dabe was out there, won his super match against Tank. That was cool. Chris Chandler was there. Robbie Topi. I got to pull Robbie Topi in the overall left-handed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
How'd that go?
To say I moved his arm a centimeter would be too much. He is so strong. And he's got a pretty good-sized mitt on him, too. So, yeah, he was just big and strong. There was nothing I was going to do with him, but he looked great. So, yeah, it was definitely a real good tournament.
It always is.
Unfortunately, I had to pull my teammate first round in the tournament. So,
That does suck.
yeah, so he has the electronic bracket system that Corey Miller designed.
Yeah.
So there's a monitor there. You can see where your class is. I don't like looking at who I'm pulling first. There's no point. But I want to see where Matt was.
Yeah.
So I'm looking. I just look over quick, and I see Matt has a bye. And I'm like, sweet. So, he gets at least, get one round, sit out for a minute. So we go over, and they had us go over to, like, the pit area. So when we called up, we were there already. And I go up there. I pulled Mark Sarr from the True Grit team, Herman's team.
Yep.
I won, and I go back to the pit. And then they're like, to the table, Matt Tucker and John Brown. And I'm just like, what? He got a bye straight into me. So it's like you can't make that up, right?
No,
so we didn't even talk about, like, what are we gonna do if we have to pull each other? You know what I mean? We didn't, like, have this plan or anything, like. So we just went up there, and I could tell he was gonna fire off on me. So he said go, and I beat him, and I'm like, fuck, that sucks. But I told him, I'm like, dude, like, anybody who's had a teammate that's in their class, like, has had to deal with that at some point. I know Ron Klemba was Klemba for me. We'd go somewhere and I have to pull him. It's just the way it goes. And I'm like, someday some new guy's gonna be tagging along with you, and you're gonna have a story to tell them. This happened to them too. So, it was too bad, but it was really good that was his first experience flying somewhere to pull, and it was a good one for him because it was pretty rough. I think that's a good way to start, to be honest with you.
It happens to all of us, man. I mean, when I first started, I went to nationals with Fitzy and a bunch of other guys, and the first match I had was James Fitzsimmons, So that's when he was 165 pound, best in the country, and I was not. So he felt bad about it, but he smoked me. I was like, what are you gonna do? It is what it is.
Yeah, it's true. And that's what you have to go through those moments. It's just the way it is. And I was feeling pretty good left-handed too, so it was gonna be one of those things like where, sorry Matt, I hope you take second. You know what I mean? Because that's how we're going in. I mean, of course that's how you go in to think. You don't think going in, I want to take second place to my teammate. You want to go in and win. So, but it was good for him. He's like a high-level amateur, just breaking into that open class thing. So he got to pull the next day, and he fared pretty well. He got second left-handed and third right. but he got to fight, get in there and fight and have a good time pulling. So definitely a good turnout for him.
So we got a question coming from Edson. He's saying that he's a rookie, or he's going to a rookie championship, I should say, and he wants some training tips. His match style is top roll. So, well, I would say there's a number of things that, I mean, I was a top roller, and that's all I did for a long time, and I would say it's of tremendous benefit to work on your hook. And, like, for example, when your wrist gets tired of top rolling, you can sit in the center of the table and hook with somebody, who's better than you. And even if they're only doing 10 or 15% power, you just sit there as long as you can. You keep repeating that over and over again. And it does a number of things for you. First of all, it makes your arm stronger, which is always a good thing for our sport. And it also takes away the fear you might have of being caught in a hook as a top roller.
Yeah.
Because when you start getting comfortable in it, you have a better idea of what to do when you're in that position. And secondly, you do learn how to use the strengths you have in top roll positions when you're in the hook, and it makes your top roll better, I should say.
True.
And I think that's I would say start by doing that.
Yeah, for sure. I think whatever you're good at, you should do the opposite in training. Probably for the first 20 minutes or so while you're fresh. Just because after a certain little while, once you start getting a little burnt up, your body's going to go back to what it does best anyway. So you're going to get the training. You're going to get all your good training in no matter what, but you should probably work on what you're weak at when you're fresh just to kind of improve it. And I agree with Josh said. I think both moves make each other better, especially when you start talking about maybe you get caught into a position, you want a top roll, you get hooked. You're going to be able to practice and transitioning rolling out of a hook someday too. So if you're going to be in a hook and you want to be able to roll out of it, you're not going to know how to do it unless you do it. So you're going to have to start in that hook and try to come out, like that kind of stuff. So I think balance is good. Balance in this game is really good. And I think it helps with endurance more than anything, because I think a lot of guys who have even decent hooks, but they're just their top roll is better, they burn out in a hook too. And I think building up that endurance inside can also help bring a little bit of power and endurance to your top roll as well. So for sure.
Another thing I would say is when you're starting out at top rolling, people tend to do this a lot, like kind of gooseneck or really stretch their wrist out and fight in that kind of position.
Yuck.
And every once in a while that's useful, but it should not be. That's not what a top roll is. That's
Right.
like an adjustment of a top roll to counter a specific technique, like someone who can pull you into a hook and you're trying to make it harder for them. I mean, a normal top roll, a top roll that actually is powerful, some people call it the full hand top roll, but I mean, when you think of the hook position, top roll is the same thing with just a slight rotation of your forearm, but you still are in that extra strong bench wrist position.
Right.
So you're not goosenecked.
No.
You basically have the same kind of hand position that you would have in a deep hook, but your elbow and your forearm are adjusted so you're attacking the top of somebody's hand. But that's a powerful top roll, and that's one that you can do capping or not capping and will not destroy your wrist instantaneously like the way people generally start off top rolling. So work on that too.
Yeah, I think the top roll you were talking about at first where you're kind of losing your hand this way, I think it's a lack of wrist control, and I think it's also a over rotation of the wrist. You don't necessarily need all that rotation to get hand control on somebody. The best way I found out to teach somebody new who wasn't really quite sure how to do the what you call it the full hand top roll, which is what I call it also, is you want to have your fingers pointing where you're going. So you do not, if you're going sideways, you do not want your fingers to be pointing at your opponent, because then you're not controlling anything. You want your fingers to be pointing in the direction that you're going. So it just helps you keep that like you said, that wrist curl. And try to not make it so you're actually rotated over. Make it so you're neutral. That's something too, And I think static holds in a neutral position off the thumb, so it's trying to turn you, but you're just staying neutral. I think that trains that, so that's pretty comfortable if you're looking for something off the table to train it with.
Mm-hmm. Thomas is asking more questions about top roll, about what's the first movement that you do and what kind of pressure are you applying. And, for me, obviously there's a lot of back pressure, but I would say that I do less and less of that as time goes by because it's too obvious where you're going to go. And frankly, I don't like committing to one move to that extent anymore. So I like to have a more balanced pressure. So I'll have a tight hand. I won't clench them like crazy, just a tight grip. So I don't do the dead hand stuff, but I also don't squeeze like I'm trying to save you from falling off of a building either, like people do. And, I'll have some back pressure, I'll have some side pressure, and I do a lot of up pressure too, which I learned from Travis. So I would say it's probably hard to describe that without feeling it. But I mean, I like to see what other people are doing. I like to see what they're doing with their hands and then try to react to that rather than going in with an idea and just trying to see it through no matter what happens.
Yeah. If I'm going to try top rolling somebody, first of all, I think that most arm wrestlers should trust themselves more than they do. I think they go in with a plan of what they're going to do, and it's usually going to change as soon as you start gripping up. Because you got a thinking person across from you. So I try to go in with no plan. I just go in and just take a grip, and I kind of let my instincts take over as far as where they're going to grab me, where the pressures are. But if I want a top roll, then I want them holding on to this back ridge in my hand. So I want them holding on to this. It doesn't mean I'm loading with them necessarily, but it means that's where I'm going to make them go. And you can set that up with shoulder positionings, body positionings, that kind of thing. Because if they're not going to do that, if they're trying to hit your fingers, well, then you want to stop that plan right away. Because if someone's going to roll into your fingers, you better hope that your finger pressure is way stronger than theirs if you're going to top roll them. Because if you're even, you're going to slip, and hopefully your strap game is pretty good. So I try to bait opponents into kind of holding on to me. Again, whether through body position or hand position or whatever. But all I'm focused on really is if I'm going to top roll, I want to get my side of the table right off the bat. I want to have my bicep locked, not necessarily pulling back because I will dead load, but I want to be able to lock it as soon as it starts, and I do not want to get turned. I'm not necessarily worried about rotating somebody's hand over. I do not want to be able to be turned from this position here. So if you try to turn me, you're just going to hit a locked hand. And from there, I'm going to come back, and I'm going to wrist curl, and I want all the pressure to come to right here into their pinky and ring finger. And as soon as it starts to either go a little bit, like that little click, or just keeps them remain flat, I stop that extra pressure, and that's when side pressure comes in. I don't want their hand to go back because I might give them 2 or 3 inches of arm travel, and I don't want that. So as soon as you start to feel their hand flat or even a little, just that little click of like, okay, this guy has no control of my hand anymore, straight side. Just get it done with.
I would add to that also that the index finger knuckle of your opponent, if you can cover their last knuckle, this knuckle right here, with your index finger,
sure,
it's a good thing because you're going to control. A big part of their leverage point is twisting from that point. And if you have a modicum of control over that knuckle, first of all, it doesn't feel good for them, and second of all, I really feel like I control somebody's hand when I get my finger there, and it's unusual that someone can pull away from it. It's hard to do that sometimes when you're always capping, which is why Alan Fisher's advice about not capping at all in practice really is a cool idea, because you get used to the idea of not relying on being that extra half-inch high, and you really can get very high. And for me, I can usually get about a quarter inch deeper on somebody's hand if I don't cap. And that extra control is very useful. I mean, not everybody, feels the same way about hand control as I do, but I like it, and I think you should experiment with that, because you'd be surprised. Just controlling that index knuckle, to me, it makes a difference. I feel like you have a better idea where it's easy to predict where their hand's going too, because you feel it before they do. I know it's kind of like a small tip, and Gabi's over here making fun of the top roll, which I think is the way most people beat him, so it makes sense that he would make fun of it.
What's he saying?
But he's just making a little smart ass comment. And Luke Kent is also saying good job avoiding him last weekend, John. So,
Luke. Yeah.
speaking of top rolls, I mean, Luke's the guy you should be asking about that.
I shouldn't have
Go back
cut. I should have just pulled 85s.
If you guys really want to, watch Luke's show, he talks a lot about his top roll, and Alan Fisher does as well. Those guys are both amazing top rollers. And, I mean, that's what Travis does too. Travis's version is a lot different and is definitely has a larger amount of subterfuge in it than most people's top roll. But go back and watch some of these shows. You get all the advice you want on top rolling.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to top roll, and we didn't even start talking about how to top roll on the strap, which, in my opinion, the most important part is just getting your hand a little higher. So cheat if you can.
Yeah, Thomas is talking about Travis changing hand position to prevent people from overwrapping, and there's a lot of different ways. Like if your hand is smaller and theirs is bigger, I mean, how you can deal with that. I mean, John talks about this not every week, but frequently that someone having a bigger hand doesn't necessarily mean anything, even if they know how to deal with it. I mean, or use their big hand. It doesn't mean that you can't beat them just because their hand's bigger and stronger. I mean, it is arm wrestling, and there's a lot of other positions that change besides the hand that can take away that advantage completely. And especially, people that are really hand dominant, what they're going to do. They have a big, strong hand. They're used to dominating people with it. So it's almost like, all right, I know it's coming. So it makes it easier to deal with because you can train around that. And that's what Travis does, because his hand isn't as big as some of the other top heavyweights. So he does his little tricks, like you said, and avoiding the base of somebody's hand. So he likes to create space in his grip so they can't quite get the same amount of traction on his hand that they normally would. There's all kinds of tricks that you can do.
Yeah, and I think number one for any technique or any opponent is really basically just fuck whoever they are and what they're going to do. It's going to be about whatever you're going to do. So it's not really. I think if you're going in there with this plan of I'm gonna react to what they're gonna do, you're probably gonna be in some trouble, especially if they're significant opponents. Because reacting to what someone's gonna do who is significant, it's gonna be really hard to come back from that. Just have a plan, or just go up there and do what you're gonna do. Do it really quick. Do it really aggressively. Sometimes you can really get away with a lot more just from being super aggressive at that table. Especially at first. But aggressiveness towards whatever technique you're going to do, it's your match. It's not their match. I think that's more important than anything. This isn't, we're not here to, help each other along when we're competing against each other. We're here to win. So, you don't want to help that guy with his plan. You want to have your own.
Yeah. I think all of us know what our dominant technique is, and it obviously makes sense to train that, but you train the fringes of it, you train different ways to do it, you train how to transition to the hook and the press from your technique in all different angles and directions. It just makes your arm stronger. And, like John and I both are major proponents of doing multiple sessions of table time a week, and most of them are, low energy, not high torque, no hitting, just, center of the table endurance and strategy. It's very useful. We just did that last night here. A bunch of people came over on Tuesday, and we lifted, and then after we were all totally burnt, we just did center of the table stuff in all different positions and tried pressing and hooking and top rolling with everybody until everybody's arms are completely dead. And we all learned something. I mean, every time I do that, I figure something cool out.
Yeah, I pulled last night too, and my elbow was definitely feeling it, my left elbow. That little injury still there for sure. I would say it's about 30% of what Oren did to it. So the next day I definitely had some trouble with closing it all the way and extending it all the way, but after that I was pretty much good. So actually felt good. I pulled a little bit after the day before, after the amateur tournament, and just kind of slow and, just pulled for a little while, and it felt quite a bit better after that, actually. So, but that little spot where it was bugging me before came right back as soon as Obi drove his big shoulder on top of it.
Well,
that prick. I'll tell you what, I've never met the guy before. I've known of him. Couldn't have been more of a gentleman, that's for sure. He was, because he actually fouled out against me right-handed, and it was crazy. He just fouled out, and he just looks at me and he just goes, It hugs me, and I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Because I don't like winning on fouls like that. But
Yeah. It is what it is, though. It happens,
you want to watch a video?
I was watching. Yeah, I think we should comment on a video, but I was just talking about this one with the. I don't know if you saw it, but there's a Japanese game show challenge, and they put this, what was it? I think it was about 27 pounds of gold bar in this box, and there's just enough room for the gold bar to get out of this hole that they had in it, and you could stick your hand through the hole, and you're try to get the gold bar out.
Okay.
And but if you just picked it up, first of all, you could hardly pick it up because it was very small and heavy. But if you did manage to pick it up, there was not enough space for your hand and the gold bar to get through the hole. So the challenge is, how do you get? And the guy finally figures it out. But the question is, and it was worth 12 million yen, which is about 120 grand.
Okay.
So it's very. But anyway, it just brought up a lot of people were talking about pinch grips and all these different kinds of things you could do to get it out. It was
I have the video right here. You want to watch?
Yeah, let's watch it.
All right, let me go ahead and get this thing rocking here.
It's basically arm wrestling, I feel like we all want to try it because, think about it. All right, it's 25 or 27 pounds. It's like 4 or 5 inches long. So it's obviously it's gold. It's very dense. It's very heavy.
Right.
But you just got to figure you can get the goddamn thing out. You make 120 grand just like that. They give you 20 minutes to get it out.
Can you see this?
Yes, I see it coming up right now.
Ooh.
これが重さ12.5キロの
これや書いてある
ここの大きさですね。
So that's like what, 26 pounds or something?
85ミリ。
Yeah, 27, I believe.
はい。だから物理的には取り出せます。
早速やります
Jonathan Laba actually shared this first, so we give him credit for that.
船ですねということは2時半に合流れば
So there's a little tiny, like a little tiny hole in the box. You gotta get this thing out.
僕は仕事もありますから
An 85 millimeter hole, 78 millimeter gold.
どんなもんか 12.5 おおえ
These guys are obviously very confident that, so the guy can't even pick the friggin' thing up
Well,
at
yeah,
first.
you look at him though.
He's
I
kind
don't-
of skinny.
I don't wanna-
think,
I don't wanna
can we even
judge.
get our arm through there, first of all?
No.
これちなみにこの金おいくらですか全部で
今
Anyway.
1600万円。
これで今俺
I'm gonna guess they just can't do it. It's a
He
fucking
can't do
10-minute
it.
video.
So what? Yeah, we don't have to watch the whole video. But what would you do in that position?
今ちょっと来ましたな
That's not a bad idea. I don't know.
取れた時で指折れてると思うんですよ
I would like to think I'd be strong enough to do it, but that's pretty heavy for such a small thing. 26 pounds. But there's really not much I wouldn't do for $450,000. So I think I'd figure it out.
これをやらないと僕帰れないんですよ
That's interesting, though.
手が痛いが力入らなくなるんですよこれ
Of course, it got shared by a bunch of big, strong guys. Yeah, I would do pretty much anything it took to get that thing out.
What would you do though? That's the question.
No.
So I think you have to pinch grip it.
Yeah.
I think you can grab it with like 2 or 3 fingers. Yeah, like Evan's saying, fingers low, thumb high, pinch it underhand. That's what my idea was. And then I haven't looked it up yet, but my friend said the person who got it out was clever and not strong. So he obviously came up with some trick to get it out. But $450,000 prize. I mean, that's a lot more than anyone's ever got in arm wrestling, man. Maybe we're in the wrong sport.
You think? There's been huge prizes for like the fucking rock, paper, scissors
Gold pinching.
contest. Yeah, we think we're in the wrong sport?
I bet you there is a rock, paper, scissors championship,
Pretty sure there is.
Yeah. All right,
Oh, you
let's
know
watch
what?
an arm wrestling video.
I was gonna say, but you know who else was in California?
Who?
Gary Roberts.
Oh.
Yeah. He was filming a little mini documentary of the day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was definitely interesting having him back. I miss Gary,
So this is going to be up on Arm TV or whatever. What is this? What was the name of the site?
It was
I
Arm
can't remember.
TV. Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna be up on Arm TV or if he's gonna put it on YouTube. I think he should put it on YouTube just for,
So we can watch it now.
Well, just get people's eyes on it. Like, I think it would be hard to come back with a mini documentary of your first time out in years and charge for it. I just think that'd be tough. But, I don't know. But it was good to have him back for sure.
Yeah.
He was definitely interviewing all day long as usual.
Somebody is saying sneak in super glue and stick it to your hand. That's a great idea. That would work.
It might be a little obvious, but
You'd never be able to get the goal off your hand again, but it might get the goal.
they never said you couldn't. So
They said no tools. One of the things they say is no tools. Would that count as a tool? That's the question.
right,
Is super glue a tool?
I would just say they're a tool. I would get them.
Yeah, someone else says pull it up using finger pressure against the glass. The guy actually does try that at the end of the video, and then he is not able to lift it from there through the hole. But I love puzzles like that, man.
That was a
And
good
it's
one.
definitely, I mean, for us, it's strength related because at first we all like, let's pinch it. But I mean, I want to try at least. I want to find someone who has something that either happens to have like a $450,000 gold bar laying around, or something that's of a similar weight that we could try it with.
Yeah. And we're just big and dumb and strong, so we're like, just lift it. Just fucking do it. Like, nobody ever thought of that,
Pretty much, that's what we're saying. But all right, let's watch an arm wrestling video now. Pick a good one. Surprise me.
Why?
And we'll. Yeah, man, come on, because people like to hear that. We all want to watch arm wrestling anyway, so that's basically the only reason people come on Facebook and YouTube is to watch each other get their asses kicked. Talk about, could that person be John Brzenk? Who's the best of all time? Speaking of which, who is the best of all time?
Who's the best arm wrestler of all time?
Yeah,
John Brzenk.
that's what I think.
Yeah.
How about left-handed?
Travis.
Of all time, you think so?
Yeah. Yeah.
What about Dennis?
No. I don't think he's done quite enough yet. I think
Well,
there's
Travis doesn't go overseas anymore.
anymore.
And as people point out frequently, Travis doesn't win a lot except when he's in WAL.
Well, I mean, he had a good, there was a decade plus before that too. That's all.
His current, I don't know. It seems like
All timer like best right now. That's a different story because you could say Pushkar right now. Yeah, I mean, those kind of guys, like right now you're never gonna know who the best guy really is because they're not gonna mix. Unfortunately.
Well, Pushkar and Travis would have a very interesting match because of the similarity in their styles. Both powerful hitting top rollers,
Quite true.
How do you think that would go?
It's a good question.
I think Travis would win because I think Travis's strap techniques are more advanced, and I think he would figure out how to absorb just enough of that hit and use it against him. That's what I think would happen.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree. I believe Pushkar to be stronger, but there's not many people that'll navigate a table like Travis. So, and really, just the entire situation. It's really not even about the table. He'll just get people so fired up and out of their mind that this guy's doing this to them. You know what I mean? That's just been part of it his whole career. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think a long time ago they had a super match and Travis won, but that was like 10 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Just they're not going to mix at the moment. That's for sure.
It is unfortunate. And the other thing that bothers me is that we have it's not mixing, but it's also there's like a Berlin Wall between Eastern European pullers, and everybody else right now. Unless you go to WAF, it's not going to happen.
Right.
It's frustrating.
Yeah, or if we go to Zloty.
Yeah, again, Eastern Europe.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not going to Eastern Europe, you're not seeing these guys. They don't leave. Like they go to WAF, some of them. But even though like Pushkar doesn't, where does Pushkar go when you think about it? Russia. He goes from the Ukraine to Russia, wherever Zloty's going to be.
Or a PAL.
PAL.
Vendettas.
And that's that.
Yep.
You know, they're not doing a lot of arm wrestling. You know.
Well, it just leaves this big question mark in every class, not just Pushkar, but I mean like every weight class. There's this big question mark. But you know, people who know more about it than us, you know, figured that was probably the best way to do it. So I think they're wrong.
Who do you think's the best now? Then was it Pushkar? If you have to consider that Brzezink's at least semi-retired.
Right-handed?
Well, both left and right-handed. Pushkar is dominant both right now, at least overseas. How would he do against Chafee and Bajent and everybody else right now? We know how he did against Chafee 2 years ago, obviously.
Yeah. I was gonna say. Yeah, I think Pushkar is still just a notch above everybody. I just do. He looks great. But I mean, look, you know, him and Trubin had that super match, and you know, Pushkar went through him, and then Trubin took a chunk out of him at Zloty again.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, those guys, like, I think it just shows what we've always talked about, which is everybody's so fucking close.
Mm-hmm.
And Trubin's just dangerous, man. The way he's built and everything, he's dangerous. As tall as he is, how he uses his hand, great in the strap.
What I think is dangerous about Trubin is that he doesn't commit to one technique.
Yeah, everything. He's dangerous physically, and you
know what you're getting from Pushkar. You know what you're getting from Michael Todd, from Dave Chafee. You know what you're getting, Jerry Caderet. You don't know what you're going to get from Trubin. He has a lot of techniques that he can use that are very devastating, as he's shown over and over again. And I think that's the part that makes him the most potentially dangerous amongst all of them. He's going to get stronger. He's still quite young. You've assumed that he's going to continue to refine his chemistry that he's got going on.
Oh.
And
saying so.
If he keeps developing the techniques like he is, he's going to be extremely hard out for everybody.
Yes.
He seems like the kind of guy who would love to come to WAL, you know?
Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah, I think the sport just continues to go in such a strange way. I don't understand. Like, I'm really curious this year to see this whole drug testing talk, what it actually amounts to. Because I think we said it on the show last time, I don't think there's a way we can have tested and non-tested events and both survive. Or at least get better. I just don't see it happening.
We can do it. I disagree with that statement for the following reason. It can continue to happen that way if we're going to continue to be a barroom sport and not be taken seriously by the world. If we are going to be taken seriously, you're absolutely right.
Right.
It has to be. It's gonna be tested, because that's how every other sport's done. And it's, you know, if we want to be taken seriously, you know, get into the Olympics and be on TV all the time and et cetera, you got to be tested. You got to be professional athletes. And we don't have that now. And
no.
Unless we do, we're going to continue to be, arm wrestling's a thing? I didn't know you could do that competitively. Oh, there's world championships of that? That's crazy. Wow, I didn't know. Blah, blah, blah.
Right. So it has to happen. Now, what that means for a lot of people, I don't know. I mean, I don't really I don't know how you react to something like that, because I can only imagine if you were on performance enhancers for a long time, and then basically the environment told you that you have to stop doing that now in order to compete here, in order to be, you know, a part of this whole thing. I don't know how you react to it, because you're going to lose something. You're not going to be what you were. Now, are you going to be still good enough to compete in this clean league? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe. Because all those guys who are clean all of a sudden take a step up, right? So I don't know how you react to that on a personal level, like on a pride level. It would probably be pretty hard. But there's things like testing that have to come into play if you're going to be taken super serious by sponsors. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, the rules have to actually be followed if you're going to be a professional sport too. And this is something that's really, really getting bad, in my opinion. Of course, there's a set of rules and it's written down and all that stuff, but to what degree are they being followed, and how consistent are they throughout the day?
Yeah.
I mean, let's be super honest.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll be super honest.
They're not being followed.
If you're going to WAF, they are. If you're going to WAL, they're not.
Right.
I mean, that's the honest truth of it. I mean, and you're 100% right. I mean, there's a lot of things that we have talked about on numerous episodes that could be done to improve our sport and should be done. And the testing thing, I mean, you get a goddamn league together. Like we said last week, everybody who wants to be a professional arm wrestler pays $25 a year to be in the league. That money goes directly to a testing pool at all the major tournaments, from all the different leagues, USAF, USAA, AAA, WAL. The big-time events like the regional championships and the national championships of those leagues get tested. And we, the 5,000 or 6,000 serious arm wrestlers in this country, all pay that fee once a year, and that's how you pay for the testing. And that's how you legitimize it. I mean, every other sport has leagues like that where you pay. I mean, my son climbs. We pay USA Bouldering or USA Climbing money every year, and they use it to do exactly that, So they legitimize the sport, and there's no reason we couldn't do that too.
Yeah, and it just nothing drives me crazier than calling something like a professional sport and then having rules that we just don't follow. Yeah. And then like and we make a concerted effort to make it so it's easier to break rules. It's just easier. Oh, that's too. Oh, you get 2 fouls every time you pull. Well, okay, next year it'll be 3 fouls. What? How about you just follow the rules, and if you don't follow the rules, you get fouled out? Like, I mean, professional athletes. That's what we're supposed to be calling ourselves, right? You should be able to follow rules. There's very specific rules. They're not that hard to figure out. They're not that hard to follow as far as understanding them. Mm-hmm. So why are we trying to make it easier? Just so people can watch it easier. Maybe we should just improve the way we pull. I mean, I don't know if there's a way around it.
I think I honestly think that it's fun to watch now. I mean, the only issue is if you're going to broadcast a live event, then it would be less fun because you got to watch the 2-minute strap putting on bullshit every time. And since everybody flies to straps as fast as they possibly can, it's like, if they gave away frequent flyer miles for straps, man, people would be flying to the fucking moon and back. It's the truth, man. I mean, you just watch it, it's embarrassing. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. If you edit it, it's awesome. It's fun to watch. But a couple comments here. Scott Wynn saying steroids aren't holding the sport back. I totally disagree with that because it's holding a big sponsors back. There's tons of billion-dollar companies that sponsor other sports that will not touch you if you don't test your athletes. Right. And that is a fact. So that's an argument. Now the question is, would we ever be at that level, Scott? Because you can make the argument that that's beyond the point that arm wrestling is ever going to go. In which case, you might be right that steroids are not holding us back. But I at least would like to think that there's enough interest in what we do that some of these big companies like Coca-Cola or whatever would be interested in sponsoring people at some point. So that's that. And the other thing, Mike, about guys knowing how to cheat tests, that's true. Absolutely. I mean, it's a constant war. But what you do with that money is you hire WADA or USADA to do the testing for you. And they're the best at catching people. I mean, they catch the UFC people all the time. These guys are making... the big ones, Cyborg and John Jones, are making millions of dollars, and they're still getting caught. Right. So some people, I'm sure, successfully beat the test, but the WADA is the real deal. I mean, Simon was on here talking about it before the carbon isotope test. It's the real deal. You can't cheat that. And if they're making sure that the samples are being collected properly, it's not really something that we can get away with, in terms of the actual steroids and things like that. Human growth hormone is trickier, but I mean, they're getting better and better at checking it. And regardless, even if they eliminate all the, the standard PEDs, it does equal the playing field. Yeah, and... No, I'm not okay. I'm coughing. Thank you for asking, Bo. I'm getting over pneumonia, and I'm going to be coughing in the next 3 shows, so I'm going to have to apologize for that right now. But thank you for caring, Bo. It means a lot. But,
the whole guys know how to cheat tests and stuff. Yeah, well, people speed. Doesn't mean you take down speed limits, It's the same thing with the whole thing we're talking about. You don't add you don't add fouls to make it so people don't foul out. People shouldn't be fouling out. And if they foul twice and there's 2 fouls and you're out, well then you pay your fine, which is you go home. It's just sorry. I mean, the whole steroids thing, as far as sponsorships go, I'm with you. And the whole steroids aren't holding this back. I believe, like, if you go to a tournament and you're like, man, I took 4th because everybody's on steroids, you can kind of know what you're getting into. So we're all grown-ups. Like, you don't have to like that it's there, and you can have your reasons for thinking you're losing and all that stuff, and that might be legitimate, whatever. But as far as what's good for the sport, not what's good for us, what's good for the sport, if you want that money coming in, I think it has to happen. And I don't think I think a format change is in place. There needs to be coming into place too. Tournaments are really tough to make some kind of production out of that makes any kind of sense. It just is.
You're right. The PAL fits the format of combat sports because it's mano a mano, and it's much more interesting to see like 2 guys. You get the backstory, you get like some little clips of their previous matches, and then they go at it. So it's, it's like you look forward to seeing whomever fight whomever, Floyd Mayweather versus whatever. That's something that you get excited about. You like, oh, it's only a month away. I can't wait. And then it happens, so it definitely builds excitement more than the tournament does. Tournaments are fun too, but it's more for like people who really enjoy the sport than people that just get excited about seeing a specific matchup.
Yeah, and I understand the point. That they don't feel like steroids are necessarily the problem. I think that's like that tip of the iceberg, but the iceberg's below the water. I kind of get it. Steroids are a part of it, but there are a lot of problems probably ahead of that. It's kind of like what Neil said to us when we interviewed him. Is like, there's testing to happen, yeah, but maybe not right now. There might be a few other things that have to happen first. So I get it. I think it's all legitimate for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with William on here about cameras and challenges and reviews, and I think there should be either a light or a sound start instead of a ready go, so people can't, time false starts. So there's a lot of things we could do to make the sport more professional. Corey's talking about the general public just wants to see the freaks, but I mean, we have, and you might be right, Corey. You might be right. People want to see like bulging, crazy muscles of people that are obviously using and spitting blood on the table when they're arm wrestling and yelling and screaming and drinking oil like in the movie. Yes, I think that's true. But I would also say that WAL is on TV and UAL is not on TV. And if you remember the 2 promos that came out, WAL focused on competitors, the pulling, and the UAL focused on like the kind of pro wrestling, yelling, screaming, that kind of stuff, a lot of swearing. The UAL didn't end up on TV. But I think you could argue that the UAL events were more TV friendly. They were like, they're expertly produced. They had Bruce Buffer, they had the lights, they had the entry music, they had all kinds of stuff that they were doing right. But they went a little bit, maybe, and this is just my opinion, over the top with the like, these guys are fucking monsters and assholes and maniacs, and Mac Telly was on there screaming bloody murder. And anyway, they didn't end up on TV. So I don't know if it's really that people want to see the freaks or if they appreciate the competition.
No, sure. And I mean, I think those comments were made about fighting too. I think these are all the same comments that were made about every sport that's been like this. I don't think we're treading on new ground. But yeah, I think people want what they're given in a lot of ways. If you're given big freaks and stuff like that, then that's what they want. If you have somebody like Neil commenting on a match that's going on, he's gonna allow you to understand what's going on a little bit better. And if the person at home understands what's going on a little bit better, they're gonna be engaged better. They're gonna like it better, and it doesn't really matter who is competing at that point. Mm-hmm. If they're engaged, if they believe they understand what they're watching, everybody's seen it, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, UFC, whatever. If somebody's at home watching that and they think they understand what's going on, they're way more engaged than if they just have no clue. Yeah. It's not necessarily about these monsters. It's about someone that's doing something that they're not really quite sure about, but they think they understand it now. Mm-hmm. That's cool. But I think one of the biggest things, honestly, is the format. Just tournament arm wrestling or tournament anything is just difficult. I think there needs to be like much like basketball, much like football, whatever, there needs to be like 24 dudes, so 12 matches, and there'll be one-on-ones. Best 3 out of 5, 6 rounds, 8 rounds, whatever. If you want an odd one to make sure they win or whatever, that's fine too. And every week there's a new match, much like every in football, every team every week you play a new team. No different, and you do that for a season.
Yeah.
That way you can kind of keep track of who's got how many wins, who's got how many losses. Oh, this person got kind of a little injured last time. Can they come back next week and pull again? Like, these things are going to happen, and it's kind of interesting if you can kind of space it out like that, and then you can keep track of individuals, their styles, that kind of stuff.
Also, I mean, that idea also, basically, if you're getting people to tune in week by week, they're going to start picking up the jargon that we use. They're going to start getting some level of, knowledge about the sport itself and understanding straps and understanding different positions and different techniques.
Yeah.
Just because they're watching, as people are saying, good comment by you and comparing it to Joe Rogan and the UFC, is that, the more you watch, the more you pick up, you start to understand what's going on the table and not just two guys yanking on each other's arms. So, I think you're right. I think that I don't know, WL has been saying for 2.5 years now that they're going to have a supermatch format at some point. They still haven't done it. But you might be right. That might be a more successful avenue to pursue.
I don't know. I think we're all just grabbing at straws at this point anyway, but...
No, we have our finger on the pulse of the sport right now, John. This is cutting-edge stuff. No one's ever talked about this besides us. This is it. This is why this show is, so vital to the world.
And not that I'm trying to be, selfish in the supermatch format or anything.
We know what your motivation is.
Oh, okay.
We're on to you, man.
I wanted to say it first.
It's not a secret.
None people can't call me out.
Yeah, well, I feel like I missed somebody's smart point. So maybe a smart point here. Yeah. Back to the steroids thing. First of all, Scott, we love you, man. We know you're a good guy. We know you don't want to support steroids.
Who's that? Scott Wynn?
Scott Wynn. Just
no.
Letting him know we appreciate his comments and we don't think he's a roidhead.
Scott's the man.
And he's the man, exactly. And Jordan Davis he makes a good point here about the underdog. Jordan, those of you guys don't know, he's very tall. And, for his weight class, he's extremely tall. I think he's 6'6" by our 6'4" by our measuring standards, and he's in 176, I think, weight class. And so he's quite tall for his weight class. But anyway, it is fun when you see somebody who appears to be thinner and weaker, in quotation marks, smack around somebody with gigantic biceps. And so it's not necessarily always about watching freaks. It is about watching
the
underdogs. Exactly, the underdog. It's cool. Fun to see that happen.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and I agree, Scott. Arm wrestlers do need to be united. The key point to become an Olympic sport, the number one requirement is that there's a unified, worldwide federation and set of rules. And we have that in the WAF, but it's not omnipresent. There's a lot of in every country, not just the United States, but in every country, there's all these side organizations that are not aligned to the WAF that are doing things differently. And obviously the WAL, its tremendous success does actually detract from our ability to become an Olympic sport because it's a completely different set of rules. There's a completely different presentation. And as you mentioned, the rules are not exactly ironclad, so to speak.
Nope. So
all that interferes. Yeah, Nanastad is a great example because Nanastad is not a tall, relatively thin guy who ended up winning the 195s lefty last year at WAL versus people like RVJ and Hutchings who have the gigantic biceps and are the more typical arm wrestling physiques.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the coolest things about the sport. Is that you don't necessarily have to look like this monster powerhouse.
You don't have to look like John Brown.
You said it.
Basically. You don't have to be as beefcakey as John Brown to succeed. So don't feel, John Brown's doing this kind of stuff all the time. I just don't want you guys feel bad if you can't keep up with him.
That's true.
Just keep working.
Yeah. Someday. Yeah,
so I'm hopeful that it's either going to be next week or the week after that we're getting the the steroid guy on, man. I can't wait for you guys to talk to him. His breadth of knowledge makes us look like clowns, basically. Not that we're hard to make look like clowns, but I think you guys are gonna have fun talking to him.
Yeah, that sounds like it'll be pretty good. I talked to our good friend Herman Stevens about it over the weekend too. He was interested in possibly coming on and talking with us, so that'd be cool too.
That would be cool.
I was disappointed I didn't get to see him pull this weekend.
So Jordan's 165 pounds and 6'4".
Yikes.
Yeah, he's planning on coming to Vegas, so we'll see. I think he give a lot of people trouble with that arm length, especially in that weight class.
Yeah, if you really know how to use that lever, man,
exactly,
you'll be in trouble.
Well, I was watching Jordan pulling in the Australian Nationals. He knows what he's doing.
Good.
He's a good competitor. He's got some fire in him too, which was fun to watch.
Nice, I like that.
You guys should watch the Australian Nationals. It was we had those guys on a couple weeks ago, and they know what they're doing, man. They're up and coming in the sport, I think.
I love seeing that, especially like when this period of time where you can kind of keep track in real time. Like you can see these guys growing all the time. You see, it must have been. I wonder how it changed or how it differed from how like America came up and Russia. You know what I mean? When we finally figured it out, or we found out about how we kind of learned. Was it slower? Was it the same? Was it faster? Because there's so much more information now.
I would say faster.
I would hope.
I mean, if you sorry, when the U.S. started Petaluma and all that stuff, it was completely inventing the sport as basketball was done in Springfield. So a lot of things, they don't use a little wicker basket anymore in the NBA. So I mean, now if you're joining the sport, you can just email the WAF and get a complete set of rules and table specifications and referee qualifications and everything you need. And then you have all these people willing to help you via videos and programs like this.
Ooh.
And, WF tournaments or whatever all around the world. So it's much easier, I think, to pick up now than it was back in the day, as they say.
Yeah.
Hey, Ben Holden is watching us right now. We were just talking about the expert job that Ben and Nick do on the WL shows, and that's how you bring new people in to the fold. I mean, people are intelligent like those guys, and they're clever and come up with things that makes you want to watch it. And those guys are a great team. It was fun having them on them.
Yeah, it was fun.
Whatever. It's good to see you, Ben. Welcome. So anyway, yeah, all that kind of stuff. I mean, they're all very good points people are making, and I just like that people are thinking about it because, I mean, it's a time of huge growth in the sport, and the fact that people are excited about it, and everybody's trying to think of ways. If the WL did this or if they did that, it would be even better. It's like that's exactly what we need to do to keep the growth.
Yeah, I just I think any of it's good. Anything that people are coming up with, and the WL makes a decision they want to do this. I think it's all fine. They just need to make decisions and actually do it.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing that's going to drive most people away, in my opinion. I mean, I could be wrong, but if you're going to do something, if you say you're going to do something, and then you don't do it, I mean, then what are we doing? I mean, especially if people are signing contracts and that kind of stuff. Like, you got to do what you're saying if you're going to, hold people for a couple of years. I think it's fair. Even if people don't like what they're going to do, if they stick to their guns and actually do what they say they're going to do, I think more people can respect that than not.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that as each year goes by, each season goes by, there's fewer and fewer people complaining about the WAL, and more people, taking them seriously and respecting what's being done there and getting involved. I mean, they're adding more and more countries every year. We're just talking about Australia, Micronesia are all going to be involved this year. So I mean, it is becoming truly the World Arm Wrestling League, and I feel like it coexists with the WAF. The WAF is kind of like the NCAA, and the WL is like NFL or NBA or what have you. It's like people can compete at the amateur level for the world title at the WAF, and then they can move on to the big money league, which is the WAL. Zloty Tour and that kind of stuff, where they can make some serious money, and it's fun to have multiple levels, all of which are being taken seriously and being produced at a professional level.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I think those, Just stick to what they're saying to do, what they're gonna do, and do it. And I think all will be well.
I agree.
Not always easy to do, but it should be done.
I agree. So, is there anything else smart that we have to say before we say goodbye to everybody?
I don't think I had anything smart to say to begin with, but
I can cough some more. I'm sure people are not sick of that yet.
oh no, it's charming.
We didn't do an arm wrestling video, man. See,
No, we didn't.
Kept everybody here.
Does anybody want one?
We never do one. Yeah, let's do one before we go.
What do you want to see?
Somebody, well, I'm not.
Yeah.
Cody was.
The people go. Say something.
Cody said, "Oh, let's watch John's last super match or Josh's world's matches." But I don't want to watch us. I want to watch somebody else.
No.
We can't watch ourselves. It's like,
Want to watch me get hurt again?
Oh yeah, that would be a good one though.
You're like, oh, that makes me happy.
Well, we could diagnose exactly what went wrong.
That's where my elbow fell apart, guys.
Yeah, but anyway, I think we should do this every week. Maybe we should start off with a little, and we can have our guests join in on the diagnosing of whatever match we're watching. I'll have to pay attention more to Ben and Nick so I can pick up some tips so we don't sound like clowns. Michael Hand just said, keep this episode going. He's not done with dinner yet.
Oh.
Man, we got to help him digest. We can't stop until he's finished eating his shrimp cocktail or whatever it is.
All right. You want to watch Devin and Marcio, Paul?
Yeah, let's watch that.
All right. Let me load it up.
Now, see, this is what I'm talking. I love Devin, and I love Marcio,
Okay.
and I want them to pull without the straps because they pull in a hook position.
I know.
They pull in a hook position.
It is kind of funny.
There's no need for the goddamn straps. Just pull. You know what I mean? And I mean, obviously Marcio's not the one slipping, but
You don't say.
I did say it, and I will say it to Devin in
It's
2
my
weeks.
boy Joe Drellick's page. NBA.
Oh yeah, see now look at this crowd, man. They're going crazy.
Yeah, I know. It is nice, man. It is good to compete in front of a good crowd, too.
So even the height difference between Devin and Marcio is so gigantic.
Yeah.
I mean, it really makes a big difference. I mean, Devin's arm is long anyway, and even for his height, it's ridiculously long.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't think Marcio has figured out exactly what to do with that yet.
Well, I think he did in New Orleans, but it's just the one thing he can do is working less and less because Devin's arm's getting much better as he's improving from that surgery.
Yeah, that's very true. And he's an absolute pro of getting to the straps.
Yeah. I mean, there's a certain point where, the technique level of these two guys is so high that, I mean, both of them know exactly what they're doing. Once you get to that world-class level of not just physicality, but intelligence too,
See, Devin just has his arm lock going on right here. He's not even trying to pull him over. He's just waiting.
Yeah, waiting in a solid rotation.
The only thing he does is he makes a little bit of an adjustment to get tighter and tighter every time Marcio hits.
Right.
On the rebound from the hit, Devin pulls him in just a little bit more. And eventually he has him extended far enough that he can pin him.
Right.
You wonder what would happen if Marcio squared his shoulders a little bit more.
Oh, Marcio's.
So
You mean while he's pulling, or?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say when he sets up, he squares that pretty well.
That's what I mean. But if you
so
watch,
hard.
he immediately kicks back his left shoulder.
I love that part too. Go back. Devin gets a lot in the strap by pulling on it, and Marcio's like, no, don't you dare do that. Yeah, I love that. You don't touch the strap, Devin. You don't want it tighter. You don't want it just tighter.
He just pulled it down again. He pulls it every time. There's a pause. He yanks on the thing. I didn't pick up on that before, but you're right.
Yeah.
He's going to be cutting off the circulation any minute now.
It's just about
See,
that.
there was one of those little adjustments. He just
yeah.
pulls him in like a quarter inch every time.
Yeah, every time, and it's really just keeping that rotation neutral, where his knuckles are. He's not necessarily palm up. He's crunching down, so his knuckles are neutral. You know, it's so important in a hook.
John Cervantes is suggesting that he tried to flash top roll Devin next time.
Well, he's
and see
correct.
what happens.
He's right. It's just that happens outside the strap, and then in the strap, it's just hard because his hand is protected. So with Devin,
You would like to see Marcio not get an endurance battle with Devin.
true.
Because nobody's going to win an endurance battle with Devin. At this point, nobody's going to win.
And it's gonna be tough, you know, with as good as Marcio's post is. It's just hard against an arm that long when Marcio's arms is not that long, you know. But his best chance is to go straight up inside just like that. But it's just Devin's hand is too strong in the strap.
Yeah, so look
But
how far
it's-
back his left shoulder is right now.
Yeah,
So he's using a lot less. He's using a lot less of his, full body power than Devin is.
like cinching on the side of that pad like that,
Yep,
Marcio.
Whereas Devin is much tighter.
Yeah,
Devin's got his leg up on the table too.
and he's using his rotation and rising right now, you know, through the bicep a little better.
He's climbing over it.
He's kind of trying to come out, but I don't think he ever gets it.
You think Devin's trying to roll out right now?
A little bit. But you
I
can-
feel like Devin he's got that lock position right there, and they let him get away with all these little hops, and it's almost like once he's in that position, it's like that's where he wants to be because he has an almost unlimited endurance in that spot.
yeah, it's very, very good for sure.
And I mean, he's climbed completely over him. So I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think Marcio has the power to beat Devin. It's a question of finding a way around that spot that he gets him into. So he's on Devin's side of the table, and Devin's doing those little quarter-inch drags on almost every hit.
Mm-hmm.
So he's getting in a more advantageous position, and eventually gets to the point where Marcio is too extended to have any power, and then he pulls him over. So there's an endurance issue, and then there's he's so big and so powerful. You would love to see him find some way to drag Devin onto his side of the table.
Yeah, and
But what do we know?
well, it's just I think you're right, and I think it's stylistically, it's just tough.
It is tough.
On Marcio with Devin. Most of the way their bodies are built.
Mm-hmm.
Marcio's arm is shorter. Devin's arm is wicked long. And the one tool that Marcio does have is just crazy, straight sideways speed.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean, look what happened with Tim Breslin and Marcio, and I know Tim
Right.
wasn't in 100% condition, but I mean, he overpowered him.
Yep.
So I mean, when it comes down to the power level, I would say that Marcio's got Devin beat. I mean, again, you've been, as the point you just made a few minutes ago, Devin's arm is continuing to improve, so that might not be the case anymore, but I think in that match it was. And it's just interesting. It's an example we were talking about earlier where someone can pull you out of, where you're strong.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't matter anymore.
yeah, I mean, in Devin knowing how to put the pressure exactly where he wants on his arm as opposed to, where he's putting it on Marcio's arm. That's, that's something that you're just not going to be able to ever put on paper. There's certain things that people bring like that's what makes the sport great.
Mike Shalhoub up here has another guy who can do that. He has a spot he can get to where unless you have a colossal amount of power, you can't pin him from there. And he can sit there and basically rest,
Right.
wait for you to tire out, and then he just brings you over. I mean, Norm Devio does that to a certain extent too. I mean, there's a lot of guys that have figured out how to have an extremely strong lock in their arm where they're, it's not like a bone lock. It's just a positional angle that they've figured out where they can absorb a lot of power without expending anywhere near the same amount to counter it.
Yeah, just true efficiency.
Yeah, and so then your gas tank depletes faster than theirs does. And, you know, so I mean that's something you got to figure out. You can't have Devin be in his position where he can sit there with a full gas burn.
Right.
So I don't know. I think, you know, Cervantes is like a great point that if there was, but your point is also equally valid, John. Is like, how do you top roll Devin? Because he has the longest arm probably in the tournament. You know, maybe Nicholas Nanastad, but
Yeah, top rolling Devin outside the strap is going to be particularly hard for sure. Or, excuse me, top rolling him in the strap is going to be particularly hard, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he's at a certain strength level, it's just really hard to get out of the strap. It's really hard to stop someone from getting to the strap. You know, if you're strong enough and you want to let go and pull straight back, people probably aren't going to be able to hold on to you anymore. It's just the way it is. And that's the, you know, maybe the bigger argument in the sport right now with straps, you know, are they as necessary as we think they are? Some people think they are. Some people think they aren't. Whatever. I will say, just from having recent experience with it, that in my opinion, if we're going to keep the strap the way it is now, the fairer strap is the way to go. In my opinion. I had experience this weekend with top rolling with the buckle on my hand, with the buckle off my hand, and I felt no difference. So, and that was with the fairer strap.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think it's the best way if we're going to keep it the way it is, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It does make it more even for competitors.
I agree. Fair strap is definitely better of the two options.
Yeah.
So, all right. That was fun.
Yep. We've had enough.
Do it again next week.
Hell yeah.
Well, some little small short person around here is trying to sneak themselves not into bed because mommy's not here and it's just me. So I need to go chase him down and put his ass in bed.
I gotcha.
And unless any of you guys are going to come over and help, I have to go run.
I can't.
Besides, they can't possibly still want to
More.
talk to us after all this time.
They probably don't.
Oh, so.
All right, well, it's been fun, y'all.
Yeah, man. We're going to be back next week with some cool guests. And you guys, hopefully, will come join us again. We'll have some more fun. And we'll start off with a video, maybe. If you guys have any videos you want us to comment on, definitely shoot us an email or text us here. And definitely, I love when you guys comment, too. I try to get all your points in because you guys are very smart, and I'm learning a lot from you guys. Anyway, good night. See you next time.